All right, so here I am trying something new in an effort to overcome boredom as well as the stress of dealing with the chaos at work and the difficulties of the migraines and my health problems. So come along with me as I try my hand at winemaking. So this first batch of wine is going to be a banana wine. So here I am unpacking about 6 pounds of bananas, and you're going to see me struggle to cut them up and stick them in the nylon bag so that I can boil them. So fun fact, I don't like bananas, and the secondary ingredient in this wine is raisins. I also don't like raisins. So when I told my mom that I was making this wine with these two ingredients in it, she had a good laugh because she said, "Boy, why are you making something out of something that you don't like?" I told her I'm on a strict budget right now, and I'm bored, and I want to try to make make a wine, and this is what fit into my budget right now. So we had a good laugh about it, and we said it's going to be an interesting process to see if this something turns into something that I actually like. Um, this process takes about 4 to 6 months. So we're gonna see if we end up liking this wine when it's all said and done. Another fun fact is if you've never smelled boiled bananas actually stink. If you've ever made banana bread, it kind of smells like that. So yeah, let's see what this turns out in about 4 to 6 months. All right, so as you can see, I got about all those bananas um, cut up and put into the nylon bag. Now I'm about to stick them on the stove in about quarter and a half of water. All right, so here I am getting the rest of the ingredients, which includes the raisins and the sugar. And there's a few other ingredients that came in the winemaking kit. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but if you order the winemaking kit, which I'll include the link in the description below, it includes the recipe book as well as all of the other enzymes and all of that in the kit. There are a few pieces of equipment that don't come in the kit that are also linked down below, like an airlock as well as the tube that you need to test the alcohol levels. I'll link that in the description below because I kind of went into this blind, not realizing that all the equipment doesn't come in the kit. So I'll link those few pieces that I had to order separately um, in the description below so that if you decide to do this, you have everything that you need. As many times as I've gone over the instructions, I don't even know why I have the glass jar on the counter right now because that is not needed for a couple of days. At this point, if you look closely, you can kind of see the steam coming off the bananas that's boiling on the back stove right there. At this point, I'm still putting all of the enzymes and things in the bowl there that is going to go in the bucket. Right now, the only thing that's in the bucket is the sugar that the banana juice is going to go over into the bucket with the sugar to melt the sugar once the bananas is ready. The bananas had to boil for like 30 minutes before I can pour it over into the sugar. And then melt the sugar, stir it first, and then all of those ingredients went into the banana juice, and sugar mixture first, and then the last step was after the banana juice and sugar, all of that cooled down, and then I mixed the yeast in after everything cooled down. All right, so here I am. I've come back a couple hours later, check using the thermometer to try to check the temperature. Realizing that thermometer don't have the degrees on it that it said check for. So I'm trying to. I checked the bucket with my hands, pretty much just to see if it was cool enough to dump the yeast in there. Um, Pretty much the bucket was to my liking, so I dumped the yeast in there, stirred it in, and off it went to just set for a couple days. All right, so I'm putting the airlock on there to make sure no other bacteria or anything get in there. And I also came back and put the name of the wine and also dated it just for my own purposes, just so I know when I started it and to kind of have an idea of how long it takes for it to, or it's taking me to um, process this wine. All right, here I am, day two. This is where things kind of start getting interesting for me. Okay, so this is what it looked like when I first opened the bucket before I stirred it up. But it was also at this point that I began to realize that I also did not have some of the equipment that I needed to measure out the alcohol content of this wine. But I just rocked with it, rolled with it, and just knew that I had a few days to let it ferment. And I jumped on Google or Amazon and ordered what I needed. So that is the gauge right there. But I did not have the tube that I needed to put the actual contents of the primary, which is the white bucket there, in to let the gauge bounce in to actually tell me if the wine was at the level, the alcohol content level. So As you can see, I'm in a second here. I'm gonna grab a cup and try to see if that's deep enough, but it's not. But I just rolled with it and went on. As you can see, panic is trying to kind of set in. You can tell I don't know what I'm doing at this point, but I quickly figured it out, and you know, I'm learning. That's the whole point of this. I'm learning. All right, so it's day 3. The tube was supposed to arrive today, but it still hadn't. But we're still gonna go ahead and stir it up like we're supposed to, and move forward. We still got a couple days before the instructions say the alcohol content is supposed to be at the level it's supposed to be before we move it into the glass jar. But here is what it looks like when I open the bucket today. Interesting, right? But you can definitely see that the yeast is doing its thing, and we got some action going on in the bucket. So I went ahead and stirred it up and put the lid back on it and let it continue to do what it is going to do. But it's definitely getting some smells going at this point. You can definitely smell that the yeast and the sugar is doing what it's doing, and we got some alcohol going on in that bucket. So we put it back to bed and moved on for the night. All right, so at this point it's day 4. I thought I had been recording already, but I wasn't. As you can see, our tube had arrived and I'm already testing it, and we actually got some action, and our alcohol levels is where it's supposed to be. So we actually ready to go ahead and move it from our primary and into our glass jar. I was just double checking to make sure that the levels was where it's supposed to be before we started that process. But before we do, let me show you what the bucket looked like when I opened it up. And the smell was really strong when I opened the bucket up as well. So we got alcohol at this point. So I went ahead and poured that back in there, stirred it up one more time, and got our siphon and our glass jar ready. You're gonna see me pull a stool over to the other side of the counter, the side that I'm standing on, and yeah, we're gonna get this going at this point. Actually, I was wrong. We let that sit one more night, and then we tested it the next day, and then on day 5, this is what it looked like. And then later on in this clip, you're gonna see me get everything ready, and then we're gonna siphon it into the glass container. So as you can see, I'm opening the bucket now, and then I took that picture, and then like I said, we siphoned it into the glass container. In this clip, I'm actually on the phone with my mom. I think I was telling her what I was doing. So I wanted to make sure I had enough alcohol, enough liquid in the tube to so that it would the gauge would bounce, would have enough room to bounce to get the right levels. Um, and then too many raisins got into the tube, so I was kind of trying to make sure that the raisins wouldn't interfere. So that's why I was doing what I was doing right there. Yeah, it bounced enough so that I knew that it would it kept landing at the right spot so to let me know that it was at the levels that it needs to be. So put it back in there and got everything ready to go ahead and siphon it into the glass container. All right, so throughout this process, you notice that I keep restarting the siphon. That's because the raisins kept clogging the siphon. And at some point, you'll notice that I actually stopped using the siphon because, again, the raisins kept getting in the way. And eventually, I had to stop using the siphon altogether and just start pouring the contents directly through a funnel. Um, and in a second, you're gonna notice that. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the jar because the jar is sitting on a stool that is behind the counter. Um, and when I start pouring the contents into the funnel, um, I tried just pouring directly into the funnel, but the raisins started clogging the funnel. So what I did is took a fork to block the raisins from falling into the funnel, and that actually worked pretty well. Um, so at that point, I was hanging up the ending a phone call with my mom, and then I actually poured it in a way. Unknowingly, I poured it in a way that you can see the raisins, and the raisins rehydrated pretty well. That you can when I pour, you can see that most of the raisins actually rehydrated and look more like grapes. So you'll see that in just a second here. All right, so now we're gonna add the airlock and let the contents of our jug sit and continue to ferment for the next 2 months before we filter the sediment out and let it sit again for the next filter.